Elon, I, the Tetragrammaton, the Lord God Most High, I do exercise thee and do powerfully command thee, O Spirit. Elon, I, the Tetragrammaton, the Lord God Most High, I do exercise thee and do powerfully command.
In the dark shadows, in the white cold, fearlessly we search for knowledge new and old. We drink the strong spirits and read the ancient tomes. The order of the Abracast. We are the brave and the bold. Occult, history, conspiracy, and violence.
Oh my god, I'm so sorry. Well, I'm waiting for my intro to play. I was scrolling through Instagram, and one of my favorite Instagram accounts is drunk people doing things. So there's this kid. It's like a nice bathroom, like like I don't know, like in a Bravo or something. I don't know. It was a nice, clean bathroom. It looks like it's like a restaurant or something. And somebody's taping this kid dancing around like a lunatic idiot. Probably making a TikTok. This kid's dancing around like an idiot. He spins around, clips the wall, falls down in front of the door. And just as he falls down, the door swings open. and a drunk guy stumbles in and throws up on it. Right on his head. So this is the kind of things that I do while I'm waiting for my intro to play. You know, my shit's all together. I got everything going on. I'm just scrolling through Instagram. Oh boy. Well, hey. Welcome to what's becoming the most depressing podcast in the world, as we're chronicling, ticking off and examining the motivations for what the shit is going on in this world, the destruction, anally raping the Western civilization while pouring sugar in the gas tank. The Abracast. And I'm your host, John Towers, and tonight we're continuing Alexander Dugin's fourth political theory. I think that, I don't know how much longer I'm going to do this. I don't think we're going to get through the whole book. I mean, I think that we will have gotten our hands around this Russian traditionalist view that we're looking at, and also this idea that the Russians are fighting globalists. We are part of the globalist faction. I keep trying to say, without harping on it too much, that we are, no longer have any kind of moral or ethical quality. We're bankrupt in as far as that is concerned as a country. I'm not talking about you and me. I'm talking about our leadership, our system, everything. They're just kowtowing to this globalist great reset stuff. And the thing is everything's moving too fast. I can't get bogged down reading this 250-page book for you guys. It's tying me down already. There's other stuff that we need to sort of talk about. But I'm a fucking completist, so I'm like, we gotta get through this fucking Dugin book. So just to, warn you guys, I don't know if we're going to get through this whole thing. I think that we've gone a long way just in the first episode about what their worldview looks like. So, without further babbling, my Instagram's away. Drunk people doing things isn't going to be interrupting the show any longer. And we're going on to the second sort of thing, part. Fourth political theory, Alexander Dugin, rethinking the past and those who lost. By the way, I have my vessel of the art, and it has my weapon of mass distraction formulae in it, the Jinn Jihad. I thank God that I was not a young man with a cell phone and access to making YouTube/TikTok/Instagram videos. I would have never made it out alive. With dick pics and all this stuff, I surely would have made a fool of myself so bad that someone probably would have murdered me. Excommunicado. Been locked up in some kind of mental institution. Where was I? Rethinking the past and those who lost. Alexander Dugin, fourth political theory. The second and third political theories are unacceptable as starting points for resisting liberalism, particularly because of the way in which they understood themselves, what they appealed to, and how they operated. They positioned themselves as contenders for the expression of the soul of modernity, and they failed in that endeavor, yet nothing stops us from thinking the very fact of their failure as something positive. Their vices recast as virtues, since the logic of the history of the new era brought us postmodernity. Then it also contained the secret essence of the new era, which was only revealed to us in the end. The second and third political theories recognize themselves as contenders for the expression of modernity's spirit, and these claims came crashing down. Everything related to these unfulfilled intentions in the previous ideologies is of least interest for the creators of the fourth political theory. However, we should attribute at the very fact that they lost one of their advantages rather than their disadvantages. By losing, they proved that they do not belong in the spirit of modernity, which in turn led to the post-liberal matrix. Herein lies their advantage. Moreover, it means that the representatives of the second and third political theories either consciously or unconsciously stood on the side of tradition. However, without drawing the necessary conclusions from this, or not recognizing it at all, the second and third political theories must be reconsidered, selecting in them that which must be discarded and that which has value in itself as complete ideologies trying to get their own way. Literally, they are entirely useless, either theoretically or practically. However, certain marginal elements that were generally not implemented and remained on the periphery or in the shadows, let us recall the metaphysics of debris, once again, may unexpectedly turn out to be extremely valuable and saturated with meaning and intuition. Yet, in any case, it is necessary to rethink the second and third political theories in a way from new perspective, and only after we reject our trust in those ideological structures on which their orthodoxy rested. Their orthodoxy is their most uninteresting and worthless aspect, Dugin says. Cross-reading them would be far more productive. Marx, through a positive review of the right, or Evolva through a positive view of the left, this fascinating national Bolshevik undertaking in the spirit of Nikolai V. Ustralov or Ernst Nikisch is not sufficient by itself, after all. A mechanical addition to the second political theory can we delineate their common regions, which were staunchly opposed to liberalism. Remember, this is classic liberalism. This is old white guys in powdered wig, old drunk white guys in powdered wig liberalism. This methodological exercise is useful as a warm-up before commencing a full-fledged elaboration of the fourth political theory. A truly significant and decisive reading of the second and third political theories is only possible on the basis of an already established fourth political theory, postmodernity and its conditions, the globalist world, governance or micromanagement, the market society, the universalism of human rights, the real dominion of capital represents the main objective in the fourth political theory. However, they are radically negated as a value. The return of tradition in theology. Wait one. Tradition, religion, hierarchy, family, and its values were overthrown at the dawn of modernity. Actually, all three political theories were conceived as an artificial ideological constructs by the people who comprehended in various ways the death of God. Friedrich and Nietzsche. The disenchantment of the world, Max Weber, and the end of the sacred. This was the core of the new era of modernity. Man came to replace God. The philosophy, the science replaced religion, and the rational, forceful, and technological constructs took place of revelation. Boy, that says something in there, doesn't it? Remember, follow the science. Follow the science. Hey, you want to follow the science? How about you let us sue when these things have VAERS database reactions? Moreover, if modernism is exhausted in postmodernity, then at the same time, the period of direct theomachi, I'm not for sure, comes to an end along with it. Postmodern people are not amicable towards religion, but rather indifferent. Moreover, certain aspects of religion, as a rule, pertaining to the regions of hell, the demonic texture of postmodern philosophers are quite appealing. In any case, the era of persecuting tradition is over, although, following the logic of post-liberalism, this will likely lead to the creation of a new global pseudo-religion. The era of persecuting tradition is over, following the logic of post-liberalism. This will likely lead to the creation of a new global pseudo-religion. Follow the science. Follow the science. That's what this globalism thing, the Great Reset, is. They're treating I guess it would be the environment, or the control that controlling the environment would give them, is the new religion. All hail the sacred digital dollar. All hail carbon credits. All hail electric cars, even though they get charged by coal. Based on scraps of disparate syncretic cults, rampant chaotic unicism, intolerance, while this turn of events is in some ways even more terrifying than direct and uncomplicated dogmatic atheism and materialism, the weakening and the persecution of the faith may be that chance. If the representatives of the fourth political theory act consistently and uncompromisingly in defending the ideals and the values of tradition. Now it is safe to institute as a political program that which was outlawed by modernity, and this no longer looks as foolish and doomed for failure as before. At least because everything in postmodernity looks foolish and doomed for failure, including its most glamorous aspects. It is not by chance that the heroes of postmodernity are freaks and monsters, transvestites and degenerates. This is the law of style. All hail style. Against the backdrop of the world's clowns, nothing and no one could look too archaic. Even the peoples of tradition who ignore the imperatives of modern life. The fairness of this assertion is not only proven by the significant achievements of Islamic fundamentalism, but also of the revival of the influence exerted by the vastly archaic Protestant sect like dispensationalists, Mormons, etc. on the U.S. foreign policy. George Bush went to war in Iraq because, in his own words, God told me to invade Iraq. I actually believe that George Bush invaded Iraq because they broke a bunch of rules that they agreed to after the Gulf War. But, who knows? Bush lied, people died. This is quite in keeping with his Protestant Methodist teachers. Thus, the fourth political theory may easily turn towards everything that preceded modernity. You got to go back to the beginning, back, in order to draw its inspiration from there. The acknowledgement of God's death ceases to be the mandatory imperative for those who want to stay relevant. The people of postmodernity are already so resigned to this event that they can no longer understand it. Who died exactly? But at the same way, the developers of the fourth political theory can't forget about this event. We believe in God, but ignore those who teach about his death, much like we ignore the words of madmen. So I got to take a little exception to this here. I'm no philosopher. I'm not deep enough to be a philosopher, and I'm no academic. Fuck. But we've read Nietzsche, we've read Thus They Spake Zarathustra, and we've read Zarathustra pleading, oh, you don't know that God is dead. It's my understanding of those readings, of the point of that thought exercise, that God is dead and what happens next. It's not a celebration. Nietzsche wasn't like, yo, bro, high five, God is dead. I don't think it was like that at all. I think he was like, now that this idea of God is dead, what do we do to fill that vacuum? We become better men. That is the point. And what does that mean? What does better men mean? I don't know. That's what all of the fucking Thus Spake Zarathustra was trying to answer in my summation. If you would like to listen to me babble through Thus Spake Zarathustra, hit up Abracast.com and check out the feature topic link. Back to it. This marks the return of theology and becomes an essential element of the fourth political theory. When it returns, postmodernity, globalization, post-liberalism, and post-industrial society is easily recognized as the kingdom of the Antichrist, or its counterparts in other religions, the Dajjal for Muslims, Rav for the Jews, and the Kali Yuga for the Hindus, etc. Now, this is not simply a metaphor capable of mobilizing the masses, but a religious fact. The fact of the apocalypse. So, I gotta say that when I read these thoughts about Dugin saying that this traditionalism is a return to to God, and everyone who's pondered the idea of God's death is the words of madmen and all this stuff. I think that they're talking about this as the idea of God as a myth. Like, I don't see Dugin, I don't see a guy like Dugin just getting this far into this evil little book. I don't see a guy like Dugin or a guy like Putin who's obviously acting out these acting out under this philosophy. Dugin was the guy who planned out the idea for, what was it, the 2015 invasion of Crimea. You know, I guess that's what the invasion of Ukraine is, but it's part one. This is what we're seeing now is part two. But I don't see these guys spending a lot of time in the Orthodox Church. You know what I'm saying? I think that this is them taking on this idea of God to separate themselves from this the postmodernism that we seem to be embodying right now. And this is interesting because we've talked about this. We talked about this in some of the CIA episodes where we kind of took this mantle of postmodernism specifically to set ourselves apart from Europe and the super hyper realism of the art in Russia. So if you guys want to hit those up again, I believe thinking about this traditionalism stuff versus this globalism stuff, it might be worth going back and listening to that. So the idea is this: they're like, there's no way we can compete with the super realism and the artistry and the technique of all these Russian artists. So what are we going to do? We're going to jerk off on a canvas and call it art. And the CIA funded all of this stuff. They funded all this postmodern nonsense. Back to it. I'm sorry. I feel I'm real talky tonight. I really got a lot of stuff going on. Myths and archaicism in the fourth political theory. If atheism of the new era ceases to be something mandatory for the fourth political theory, then the theology of monotheistic religions, which at one time displaced other sacred cultures, will not be the ultimate truth either, or rather may or may not be. That theoretically nothing limits the depth of addressing the ancient archaic values, which can be a specific place in the new ideological construction upon being adequately recognized and understood, eliminating the need to adjust theology to rationalism of modernity. The carriers of the fourth political theory are free to ignore those theological and dogmatic elements which are affected by the rationalism in the monotheistic society, specifically at the later stages, and later led the appearance of deism on the ruins of Christian European culture, followed by the atheism and materialism during a phased development of the programs of the modern age. Not only the highest supplemental symbols of faith can be taken on board once again as a new shield, but so can those irrational aspects of cults, rites, and legends that have perplexed theologians in the previous stages. If we reject the idea of progress inherent to modernity, which we have seen has ended, then all that is ancient gains value and credibility for us simply because it is ancient. Ancient means good, and the more ancient, the better. Of all creations, paradise... Listen to that. Hold on, I need to hit that up again. Not only the highest supplemental symbols of faith can be taken on board once again as a new shield, but so those irrational aspects of cults, rites, and legends that have perplexed theologians at the previous stages. If we reject the idea of progress inherent to modernity, then all that is ancient gains value and credibility for us simply because it is ancient. Ancient means good, and the more ancient, the better. What I feel like whenever we talk about the occult and magic, I'm always saying this, right? Like, it's in the fucking opening of the show. You got to read the old books. Of all creations, paradise is the most ancient one. The carriers of the fourth political theory must strive towards discovering it anew in the near future. So here, this is why I call this book evil. This book is evil because if I don't constantly put it in context, I wind up going like, yeah, man, that shit's right. Like, this guy's got it going on. But it's all wrong. It's crafty and it's clever. And really, once in that first episode, the first part we did about this, where he's talking about the end of individualism, that's really where you just have to hold that line. If you read the rest of this and you're like, yeah, this is good, you got to read the old books. Fuck this new book's bullshit. I agree with that, Alexander Dugin. You got to be like, no, I got to go back to the main problem that individualism must go, which is something that's basically held on the other side of this question, this question that we're dealing with, this globalism. I have a funny thing that's coming up about this, about the globalist utopia. I found something so cool in a 70s movie that speaks right to the Great Reset. I'm trying to expand it a little bit, unpack it, make a whole episode out of it, which is one of the reasons that I'm like, I don't know if I could keep doing this Dugin stuff. Heidegger and the event. And finally, we can identify the most profound ontological foundation of the fourth political theory here. We should pay attention not only to theologies and mythologies, but also to the reflective philosophy experience of one particular thinker who had made an unique attempt of constructing fundamental ontology, the most summarizing, paradoxical, profound, and penetrating study of the being. I'm talking about Martin Heidegger. A brief description of Heidegger's concept is as follows. At the dawn of philosophical thought, people, more specifically Europeans, even more specifically the Greeks, raised the question of being as the focal point of their thinking. But by thematizing it, they risked getting confused by the nuance of the complicated relationship between being and thought, between the pure being and its expression in existence of being, between human being and the world, and being in itself. This failure already occurred in the teaching of Heraclitus about the phusis and the logos. Next is the obvious in the Parmenides work, and finally in Plato, who's placed ideas between man and existence and who defined truth as the correspondence thereof. The referential theory of knowledge, this failure reached the culmination, and this gave birth to alienation, and eventually led to calculating thinking, das rechnende Denken, and then to the development of technology. Little by little, man lost sight of pure being and pursued the path of nihilism. The essence of technology expresses this continually accumulating nihilism. In the new era, this tendency reaches its pinnacle. Technical development ultimately displaces beings and crowns. Nonetheless, Heidegger bitterly hated liberalism, considering it an extension of the calculation source, which lies at the heart of Western nihilism. Postmodernity, which Heidegger did not live to see, is, in every sense, the ultimate oblivion of being. It is that midnight when nothingness begins to seep from all the cracks. Yet his philosophy was not hopelessly pessimistic. He believed that nothingness itself is the flip side of pure being, which in such a paradoxical way reminds mankind of its existence. If we correctly decipher the logic between unfurling of being and thinking, mankind can save itself with the lightning speed at every moment of the greatest risk. Where danger lies, there too grows the chance for salvation. Heidegger's quote. Heidegger quotes Frederick Holder's poetry. Heidegger used the special term originus, the event, to describe this sudden return of being. It takes place exactly at midnight of the world's night. At the vast moment in history, the darkest moment in history, Heidegger himself constantly vacillated as to whether this point had been reached or not quite yet, this eternal not yet. Heidegger's philosophy may prove to be that central axis threatening everything around it, ranging from the reconceived second and the third political theories to the return of theology and mythology. Thus, at the heart of the fourth political theory, as its magnetic center, lies the trajectory of approaching Origenus, the event which will embody the triumphant return of being at the exact moment when mankind forgets about it once and for all, to the point that the last traces of it disappear. Is this is what's happening in Ukraine an expression of the event? Do you think that this is these Russian traditionalists looking at the Great Reset and look at how far the road we have come and how fast we're standing on the edge? Maybe they perceived that this was the midnight, the darkest hour, and maybe this was the event. The fourth political theory and Russia. Today, many people intuitively understand that Russia has no place in the brave new world of globalization, post-modernity, and post-liberalism. First, the world state and then the world government are gradually abolishing all nation states in general. The more important is the fact that the entirety of Russian history is a dialectical argument with the West and against Western culture, the struggle for upholding our own, often only intuitively grasped, Russian truth, our own messianic idea, and our own version of the end of history. No matter how it is expressed through the Muscovite orthodoxy, Peter's secular empire, and the world communist revolution, the brightest Russian minds clearly saw that the West was moving towards the abyss. Now, looking at where neoliberal economists and postmodern culture has led the world, we can be certain that this institution pushing generations of Russian people to the search for alternatives was completely justified. The current global economic crisis is just the beginning of the worst is yet to come. The inertia of post-liberal processes is such that the change, of course, is impossible. To save the West, unrestrained, emancipated theology will search for more efficient, but a purely technological means. This is the new phase of the onset of Gestel, spreading the nihilistic stain of the global market over the entire planet, moving from crisis to crisis. And from one bubble to the next, thousands of Americans held in, a demonstration at a time of crisis with the following slogan: "Give us a new bubble." Can they be any more blunt? A globalist economy and the structures of post-industrial society make mankind's night more and more black. It is so black, in fact, that we gradually forget that this is the nighttime. What is light? People ask themselves, having never seen it. It is clear that Russia needs to follow a different path, its own. Yet herein lies the question and paradox, evading the logic of postmodernity, and one single country will not be that simple. The Soviet model tried and collapsed. After that point, the ideological situation changed irreversibly, as did the strategic balance of power. Or in order for Russia to save herself and others, creating some sort of a technological miracle or a deceptive move is insufficient. World history has its own logic, and the end of ideology is not a random failure, but the beginning of a new stage, apparently the last one. In this situation, Russia's failure directly relies on our efforts to develop the fourth political theory. We will not go far, will not extend our time by locally sorting these opinions that globalization offers us, and by correcting the status quo in a superficial manner. Postmodernity's challenge is tremendously significant. It is rooted in the logic of being's oblivion in mankind's departure from existential and spiritual roots, responding to it with hat-tossing innovations or public relations surrogates. It's impossible, therefore. We must refer to the philosophical foundations of history and make a metaphysical effort in order to solve the current problem. The global economic crisis, countering in the unipolar world, as well as the preservation and strengthening of sovereignty. It is difficult to say how the process of developing this theory will turn out. One thing is clear: it cannot be an individual effort or one that is restricted to a small group of people. The effort must be shared and collective. In this manner, the representatives of other cultures and people, both in Europe and Asia, can truly... Oceania has always been at war with Eurasia. Eurasia has always been in war with Oceania. Can truly help us, since they sense the eschatological tension of the present moment in an equally acute way, and are just as desperately looking for the way out from the global dead end. However, it is possible to state in advance that Russian version of the fourth political theory, based on the rejection of the status quo and its practical and theoretical dimensions, will focus on the Russian event. This will be that very event, unique and extraordinary, for which many generations of Russian people lived and waited, from the birth of our nation to the coming arrival of the end of days. All right, this is a perfect place to end this episode. That really tied up what I wanted to get across. However, we still have a few more minutes, so I'm going to skip down to this next part that I wanted to definitely talk about. It's called the New World Order, the World Order Questioned. It's a new world order. The New World Order, the NWO. Wrestling has ruined this for me. As a concept was popularized by Scott Hall and Diesel, Kevin Nash, and Hollywood Hulk Hogan. a concrete historical moment precisely when the Cold War ended in the late 1980s. The genuine global cooperation between the U.S. and the Soviet Union was considered not only possible but very probable. The basis of the NWO standing next to a mountain was presumably a realization of convergence theory, predicting the synthesis of the Soviet social and Western capitalist political forms in close cooperation of the Soviet Union and the USA in a case of regional issues. For example, the first Gulf War in the beginning of 1991. However, as the Soviet Union collapsed soon after this, a project of the NWO was naturally set aside and forgotten. In 91, the other world order was considered to be something under formation before our very eyes. The unipolar world, with the open global hegemony of the USA, is described well in Fukuyama's Political Utopia, The End of History. The world order ignored all other poles of power except the USA. With its allies, Europe and Japan, was conceived as the universalization of free market economics, political democracy, and human rights ideology as the global system accepted by all countries in the world. Skeptics, however, thought that this was rather illusory, and that the difference between countries and people would reappear in other forms. For example, Samuel Huntington's famous Clash of Civilizations thesis, or ethnic or religious conflicts. In some experts, in particular John Mearsheimer, regarded unipolarity not as a proper world order, but rather than a unipolar momentum. In any case, what is questioned in all these projects is the existing order of nation states, the national sovereignty. Westphalian system no longer corresponded to the current global balance of power. New actors of transitional and subnational scale are affirming their growing importance of its evident that the world is in need of a new paradigm of international relations. So, the actual contemporary world cannot be regarded as a properly realized NWO. There is no definitive world order of any kind that we have. Instead, is the transition from the world order we knew in the 20th century to some other paradigm whose features are yet to be fully defined. Will the future really be global, or religionalist tendencies dominate? Will there be one unique world order? Or will there be instead various local and regional orders? Or perhaps, that we are going to have to deal with global chaos? It is not yet clear. The transition is not accomplished. We are living in the middle of it. This is the dark night before the event. If the global elite, and first of all U.S. political and economic elite, have clear vision of the future, which is rather doubtful, I don't think so. Circumstances may and can prevent the realization of it in practice. If, however, the global elite lack a consensual project, the issue becomes much more complicated. So only the fact of transition to some new paradigm is certain. The paradigm as such is, to the contrary, quite uncertain. So look, this is where we're going to end for this evening. I hope that you guys are getting a lot out of this. I think it's very interesting to see the thinking on the other side. I remember when 9/11 happened, my best friend and roommate at the time was like, both floored, right? And he was like, "What the fuck, man?" And the first thing that I thought of, maybe not the first thing, but when I got to trying to rationalize it, the first thing I thought of is, hey, we gotta talk to Jake. We had a friend named Jake who was a Russian Jew, and he was very sensitive about people knowing that he was a Jew, but Pittsburgh has a huge Russian Jewish population. They were able to get asylum here, or whatever you call it, because they were being persecuted. I said, we got to talk to Jake about this, because even though I'm not even going to say I'm an expert or not well read. I mean, I've talked for like 5 hours on the podcast and various things about just the history of 9/11 and what happened. You know, you could check out the featured topic link if you want to find those, or just wait till 9/11 rolls around this year if we're still alive and the internet's still here and and everybody's not canceled and deplatformed yet. You know, I play it every year. So I was like, you know, I knew about what had happened in Afghanistan in the fall of the Soviet Union. So I was like, we got to talk to Jake and find out what's up with this. You know, so next time we ran into Jake, we pulled him aside, we talked to him for a little bit, and we got a little bit of perspective on it, right? Jake, I think that I've talked about him before. He spoke great English, but I think he learned English by listening to old Eddie Murphy stand-ups, because I mean, he was almost as good as a cusser as my old man was. He's fucking towers. Let me tell you, fucking let me tell you something. Anyhow, I hope that you guys aren't getting too bored with these episodes. You know, I made a joke at the beginning saying it's like the most depressing podcast ever now, but I think that, you know, maybe that's what this podcast was for, to chart this end of Western civilization. I don't say that lightly. I really do think that's what's happening right outside of our window. And I'm taking a lot of precautions, and I'm spending a lot of time and considerably lot of money trying to prepare for what's happening next. I'm like, bullets, Band-Aids, beans, the first sergeant's mission, right? Buying freezers, getting them stocked up. I just spent a lot of today just going through and inventorying everything that I've got. I've got gas cans tied down under tarps in the backyard. Like, you know, I'm taking this shit seriously, and I'm looking at these things that are happening, and, you know, we're going back and looking at like the defense of Western civilization episodes, and, you know, the birth of Western civilization episodes. I'm just trying to wrap my head around the whole thing from my perspective. So I'm gonna let you go. I've been babbling enough, but I do want to reach out to a listener of the show. I don't want to dox him. His name is Dan. We've been emailing back and forth, and he's got a lot of really good ideas. Unfortunately, Dan, I'm sorry I wasn't able to incorporate some of the interesting stuff that we were talking about here. I thought that I would be able to with all the NWO stuff. Anyhow, I just want to reach out to Dan and say thank you, and say, before Hilla tells you what's up, I don't talk about supporting the show very often anymore. Like, I feel like the people's spoken, right? But I am frantically trying to get shows archived to my Subscribestar, because, like I just said, it's in the back of my mind. I don't know how long whatever is going to keep happening. So I think that Subscribestar is like the safest place for the show. So I'm archiving a bunch of stuff. There's a couple different tiers. Basically, you literally get everything at all of the different tiers for supporting the show. All of the older episodes are getting uploaded there. I'm really hustling to try to get this done sooner rather than later, although it does take a little bit of time. So if you're interested, check them out. If you're like, why aren't these old shows on the feed? It's because I'm moving them, bro. I'm moving them. So please take a second, look at your finances, look at your time, look at what you have stored up, and think about it. Even though I was preaching a lot about it during the pandemic, I got caught with my pants down. I had never seen a shortage of red meat. I had to drive to West Virginia to buy steaks and gin during the pandemic, and I'm like, never again. So that's where I am. That's my headspace, and I hope, however seriously you're taking this stuff, I hope that you're helping to take care of the people that are around you. So I'm John Towers. This has been the Abracast. Thank you guys very much. And if you want, reach out to me. Let me know what you think. If you want to bullshit about what's going on, okay. That's it. Hilla will tell you what's up. Thank you.
Thank you for listening, and we hope that you enjoyed the show. Please send an email or find us on social media and let us know what you think about the show. We would appreciate it if you would give us a 5-star rate and review wherever you find your favorite podcasts. You can find Stigmata Studios, graphic, novels, and comic books. Take control of your destiny. Understand your past. Put your present in context and know your future with a twist. Check out the Abracast Tarot card deck. Your body is your temple. So let's make sure you got a badass t-shirt on it. Variety of cool occult themed t-shirts. And other merch like stickers, wall art, mugs, and more. Welcome to the Red Archive. Get access to over 50 hours of archived episodes. More bonus audio. Additional exclusive content. All this for only $1 a month. Are you interested in the occult, history, conspiracy, and violence? Learn more at Abracast.com.